So far, we have put together a really strong base. You now understand the core building blocks that make up an AI agent system. We've also looked at different types of agents, how they vary depending on what they're designed to do and how capable they are. On top of that, we also explored how agents actually learn and went through some of the most important designing patterns that make agents effective and reliable. So, yes, we are moving in the right direction. Now, in this particular part, I'm going to shift gears a bit and focus more on hands-on, practical side of building and working with AI agents. Specifically, you will see how to choose the right model for your agent, decide which tools it should have access to, set up clear and effective prompt instructions, and implement the right guardrails to keep everything safe and under control. Sounds good, right? So let us dive in. Now that we have understood what agents are and how they work, the next logical question is how do we actually bring them to your business? The first step is to get really clear on your objective. What exactly do you want the AI agent to do for you? Are you trying to improve customer satisfaction by offering 24 by 7 support, or are you aiming to reduce operational cost by automating tasks that humans currently perform? When you have a clear goal, everything else becomes much easier. You can define a proper roadmap, and more importantly, you know what success looks like. Once that is clear, the next thing that you have to think about is data. AI agents are only as good as the data they have access to. You need high quality, reliable data flowing from your internal systems so the agent can learn properly and access the right knowledge when needed. Without good data, even the best designed agents won't perform well. Now, before we start building, it's also important to visualize the process and decide what kind of agent you actually need. For example, if you're building a simple chatbot to answer customer questions on your website, a basic reflex agent might be enough. If you want something more advanced, like an agent that can analyze your latest offers, compare them with competitors, and highlight your advantages, then you will need a learning agent that can adapt and improve over time. You'll also need to make sure your internal systems can provide the agent with all the information that it needs. Once you build and working prototype, the focus shifts to your user experience. You observe how people interact with the agent, identify gaps, and refine its behavior and instructions. After deployment, monitoring becomes critical. You need to track performance and ensure the agent is meeting your KPIs. But don't just rely on metrics. Human oversight is still very, very important. AI agents can operate independently, but there will always be a situation where human judgment is necessary, especially for complex and sensitive scenario. So overall, implementing AI agent is not just about building the technology. It's about defining clear goals and providing the right data, choosing the right type of agent, refining based on user interaction, and continuously monitoring the performance. Now, there are tons of language models out there, dozens of major ones, and honestly, hundreds and thousands of many more that are useful depending on the situation. So, naturally, the big question is which one should you pick to run your AI agent? Should you always go for the smartest, most powerful model available? Well, not really. As cliche it sounds, the real answer is it depends. Every model has its own strengths and trade offs. Some models are incredibly powerful and can handle complex reason and nuanced decisions, but they tend to be slower and more expensive. On the other hand, some models are extremely fast and cheap, but they might not perform well on more challenging tasks. And that is why it is usually a good idea to keep trying multiple models before deciding which one works the best for your use case. Also, not every task actually need the most advanced model. For simpler things like answering frequently asked questions, routing queries, or detecting user intent, a smaller, faster model is often more than enough. But when you are dealing with more critical or complex decisions like deciding whether a customer is eligible for a refund, evaluating applications, or making decision judgment based decisions, that is where more capable models really shine. A more practical approach that many teams follow is that start by building your model using the most capable model. This gives you a strong performance baseline. Once you know what the good performance looks like, you can then start experimenting with faster or cheaper models and see if they still meet your quality requirement. If they do, great. You have made your system more efficient without sacrificing much performance. But at the end of the day, choosing the right model is always a trade-off. You're always balancing accuracy, speed, cost, and scalability, and all those stuffs. And the right choice depends on what matters most for your specific application. Agents, they don't work in isolation. They need tools to talk to other software. Most of the times this communication helps or happens through APIs. You can think of APIs as bridge that connects agents to external systems like databases and CRMs and search engines or any other software that they need to interact with. Now if an API is not available, agents can still interact with software the way human do, by navigating interfaces, clicking buttons, or reading web pages. But honestly, that is not ideal. Even for humans, browsing a website to find specific information is slower and more error prone compared to getting clean structured data in a table or JSON format. The same applies for agent as well. Structured access is always more reliable and accurate. Broadly, agent tools falls into two categories: data tools and action tools. Data tools help retrieve information. For example, an agent might use a data tool to look up the customer details in a database, reading information from a PDF, or search the web for a relevant content. All of these tools serve one purpose, that is helping the agent gather the information it needs to make decisions and carry out its task. Action tools, on the other hand, allow agents to actually do things. This could include scheduling meetings, creating customer support tickets, processing refunds, or updating records. These tools let agents modify their environment and move closer to completing their goals. So, in simple terms, data tools help agents know things, and action tools help agents do things. Now, you probably already know how important prompt engineering has become when working with large language models. But honestly, just a few years ago, hardly anyone was even talking about it. Now, it is one of the most essential skills that you really want to get the best results out of AI. At its core, it's pretty simple. The clearer and more specific your instructions are, the better the output will be. When you reduce ambiguity, the model does not have to guess what you mean. It just does exactly what you want. And this same idea applies directly when you are building or working with AI agents. Whenever you create an agent, one of the most important things you will design is the system prompt. Think of it as a agent brain or operating manual. A well crafted prompt helps the agent make better decision, execute workflows more smoothly, and avoid unnecessary errors. Now, OpenAI has shared some really useful best practices for writing writing agent instructions. One of the first recommendation is to use existing documentation to create a LLM friendly routines. In other words, build a solid knowledge base. When your agent has access to structured, relevant information, it can provide much more accurate and useful responses because it actually has the right context. Another key practice is to encourage the agent to break tasks into smaller steps. This makes the reasoning process easier for the model and also reduces the chance of hitting context limits or making logical mistakes. Step by step thinking leads to more reliable outcomes. It's also important to define actions clearly, avoid vague instructions. The more explicit you are, the less room there is for misinterpretation. For example, instead of saying something general like help the customer with their order issue, you should specify exactly what you want it to do, like asking for order ID, checking delivery status, and offering a resend or refund if needed. Clear instruction lead to consistent behavior. Another thing that you should always think about is edge cases. Of course, you won't be able to predict everything before deployment, but more scenarios you anticipate upfront, the better user experience will be. For example, if someone asks for a refund after the return window has expired, your agent should not get stuck. Instructed to politely explain the policy and offer alternatives like store credit or exchange or something like that. All of this come together to create a reliable, effective system prompt. When done right, your agent becomes much more predictable, more helpful, and more easier to trust.